Welcome to worship at First-Plymouth Church. We're gathered in the inclusive love of Jesus Christ.
So my friends, we start a little bit of a different vibe at the 11:59. We're actually calling it the 11:57 now, but come at this at whatever time you come. We're going to do something different. We got some different shapes, a little different look, but also the sermon's going to end in an interactive way now. You'll see a text number. While you're sitting there, if you have a thought about it, like you have a thought you could add to it or a question you have, you get to text JC or me if he's preaching, but today I'm preaching. Text him, and at the end of the sermon, we'll go into interaction with what thoughts and reactions. We're also, of course, live streaming, so for the digital audience, which is a big part of our community now.
It is, so we look forward to the digital audience can do the same thing. You'll see the number there. You can text me your question or your comment.
So also, I thought it would be fun if we're going to launch a little bit of a different 11:59. A fun way to launch something is with airplanes. And I also know at the 11:59 we also have a lot of different ages, and I like feeling like I'm 12 again. So let me show you something. If you want to try this, if you turn the plane upside down and put your fingers towards the front like this, if you did that and then turn inward, look what you can do. Or you could just try to throw it. But on the count of 3, let's launch our new gathering. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, throw it up.
Yes!
All right, welcome. Okay, my friends, welcome to worship. Trey, bring us in.
Charity, oh charity, now what can I do? Once I gave to those in need, now I'm in need of you. Charity, oh charity, I cannot believe how easier it is to give than to let yourself receive. For what you have given me came out of the blue. What you have done for me I never could do. Charity. Just who is helping who? You are free to go your way, whatever path you choose. The love I've lost in you, my friend, was never mine to lose. For what you have given me came out of the blue. What you have done for me I never could do. Charity, just who is helping who? Just who is helping who?
Now let us hear this word of the Lord from, there's 3 scriptures that we're going to be reflecting on together. We'll start with Luke 14. For all who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. He said also to the one who had invited him, When you give a luncheon or a dinner, do not invite your friends or your brothers and sisters or your relatives or rich neighbors in case they may invite you in return, and you would be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed, because they cannot repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. A word from Corinthians 15, therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. Psalm 16, you make known to me the path of life. In your presence, there is fullness of joy.
We live in a complex and chaotic world. I noticed recently, I've said that sentence like 1,000,000 times since 2020. In fact, I was filming a television commercial for First-Plymouth this week, and I started by saying we live in a complex and chaotic world, and it just hit me. I've been saying that all the time, because we do. You know, incidentally, I asked AI, what are the 2 most common words that Jim Keck uses at First-Plymouth? And it did its thing, and it said the 2 words that Jim Keck most frequently uses are love and consciousness. Well, that's kind of cool. I do mostly just want to talk about love. I do that every week because I think in a complex and chaotic world, if there's more love, it helps everything. I want to talk about love all the time. Any of our problems are lessened if there's more love in the world. My 25-year-old came back last week, and he says he watches me on Livestream every week, and he goes, Dad, you got to be edgier. You got to be punchier. And I said, dude, I just want to talk about love. But I like that it also picked consciousness. You know how fascinated I am that you are a soul, a consciousness. You are a vast subjectivity. You're completely unique. You have your sense of life, how you experience things, your memories, hopes, dreams, desires. You are completely unique. I love consciousness. And I think consciousness is fundamental to reality. I talk about it a lot. So pretty soon AI will get on top of the fact I'm saying it's a complex, chaotic world all the time too. And I think I say it because we live in a polycrisis. That's a word that's also become really popular these last few years. Polycrisis. The idea that there's overlapping effects to multiple crises, overlapping effects to COVID, war, inflation, climate change, the erosion of our democratic institutions, synthetic biology, the threat of AI itself, that when there's multiple crises, it has overlapping effects. There's an accumulative effect. That's polycrisis. And I believe, my friends, in a chaotic and complex world, it's the time to hold fast again to the basic principles. You see, you're a good person, and you know what the basic values are of honesty, kindness, gentleness, justice, inclusion, hope, joy. I mean, you know all the good stuff because you're a good person. But sometimes when we become anxious, you can lose hold of your moral will. If you become afraid, you can lose hold of those basic principles and act differently. So now is a time to hold fast. In Ecclesiastes chapter 4, it says, a 3-cord rope is not easily broken, And I want to talk today that I think there are 3 basic virtues that if we entwine them, it'll be a strong rope. It'll be a lifeline in perilous times if we entwine these 3 cords. So first, steadfastness, then humility, and then joy. Steadfast. If that sounds like a biblical word to you, it's because it is. It's in the Bible a lot. In fact, in Psalm 136, it says 26 times, God's steadfast love endures forever. You see, God's love for us is immovable. So the vision of steadfastness is how God loves us no matter what. In Hebrew, it's chesed. God's love is a steadfast thing. In Hebrews 6, it says, the steadfast anchor for your soul is Christ. So steadfast. You see, what I mean is now is the time to hold on with perseverance, with endurance to those basic principles. You know what they are in the faith, for example, that you're to love your neighbor as yourself. You're to seek kindness and justice. You know that you're supposed to forgive people again and again. You know all the basic values of the faith. Now is the time to become especially steadfast in them. Because when times are anxious, you'll lose your hold. Steadfastness. There's a beautiful example of being steadfast in your principles that comes from the year 1860. Walt Whitman had just written a book of poetry that became the new form of American poetry. It was groundbreaking, Leaves of Grass. And the rest of his life, he would revise that book. So in 1860, he went to Boston to do another revision. He met with his mentor, his great supporter, Ralph Waldo Emerson. They're walking along, and Ralph Waldo says to him, you've got to take out a few verses that are in this version of the book. You have to take these sentences out because it's stopping people from receiving the goodness of the whole book. You got to take these sentences out because those sentences make it clear that you're gay. And Walt Whitman stopped walking and said to Emerson, no, the dirtiest book in the world is the expurgated book. That's an old word. Expurgate means when you take out objectionable material from something because you've received pressure. Walt Whitman stood steadfast in his authenticity of who he was, no matter what someone else thought. So at First-Plymouth, take one of our core principles, inclusion. These days, inclusion is under some sort of pressure. We're a place that believes regardless of your sexual identity or gender identity or your politics or your ethnicity or whether your immigration status or what nation you're born in, that inclusion is when the dignity of every person is respected, and that's a core principle, but it seems like it's under a little pressure. I mean, like now people are saying it's woke, and then woke, it's referring to some excesses maybe in institutional requirements, but we're redefining this stuff, and it seems under pressure, and we have to remain steadfast in holding those values. In Mark, the Gospel of Mark, 6 times Jesus says, stay awake, which is really close to saying stay woke. We have to hold on to our core values in confusing times, and it will be a lifeline to those that feel in peril. Steadfastness. And then we weave in the cord of humility, because steadfastness can sometimes look like you're stuck in your own opinions or you're being pretentious. No, you weave in humility. It's not easy to be humble in our times either. We're a society of self-promotion. Lift yourself up. It's now said by the time you reach 70, you would have taken 25,000 selfies. I mean, there is an obsessive focus on self. It's not easy to be humble. What is humility? C.S. Lewis said, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. You know that. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. Another great theologian said, humility is a type of self-forgetfulness. You just quiet down your ego. You stop relating everything to you. So like most of us, we navigate a day, everything that's going on in the world, every event that happens in the day, everything somebody says, we're kind of relating it to ourselves, but to just kind of let that go. Self-forgetfulness. We need humility these days. At its most basic, humility is believing that every life matters as much, every life matters the same. See, it seems like we're starting to rank what lives matter more than others in this world. Humility would never do such a thing. Every life matters the same. That's true humility. John Wooden, who was a great basketball coach, and this is pre-World War II when he was a little kid, his mom would say to him every day, "You're no better than anyone else." And that sounds kind of harsh to our ears, because we want to build up the self-esteem of a child. But John Wooden said that teaching gave him the moral foundation for his whole life. You're no better than anyone else, because it also means nobody else is better than you. It's speaking to an equality of souls. And I think we're losing that. We're ranking what lives matter more than others. Everybody's life matters as much as yours. That's humility. Everybody's life does matter as much as yours. When you see someone on the news facing peril or being deported or receiving, their life matters as much as yours. That's humility. It's not easy. But if we weave it with steadfastness. Do you know one of the great speeches in American history is also the most humble speech ever? So this is an old example. In 1939, on July 4th, Lou Gehrig stepped onto home plate at Yankee Stadium to give a speech because he had just been diagnosed with ALS. He was to die just about 18 months later. And Lou Gehrig had been the Iron Man in baseball. He had played 2,105 consecutive games. He batted .340 lifetime average. He hit almost 500 home runs. The guy was a beast. But he was dying, and doctors said, you need to conserve whatever strength you have. He stood on home plate, and this is what he said to the 61,000 people at Yankee Stadium. For the past 2 weeks, you've been reading about my bad break. Yet today I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. I've been in ballparks for 17 years, and I've never received anything but kindness and encouragement from you fans. So he starts the speech by thanking the fans, and then the rest of the speech is just thanking everyone else. Everyone else. He's thanking the opposing baseball team in this speech, his own teammates, the manager, the owner. He's thanking everyone. By the end of the speech, he's even thanking his mother-in-law. He says, when you have a wonderful mother-in-law who takes side with you and squabbles with her own daughter, that's something. When you have a father and mother who work all their lives so that you can have an education, that you can build your potential, it's a blessing. When you have a wife who has been a tower of strength and shown more courage than you dreamed existed, that's the finest I know. So I close in saying that I might have been given a bad break, but I've got an awful lot to live for. Pure, beautiful humility. Steadfastness, humility. And then if we weave in a third chord that'll create a rope not easily broken, the cord of joy. Now, I know that might surprise you, because joy, you think, well, your happiness is about you. It's all about you. That's not joy. Joy is not the same as happiness. The Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu came together to write a book about joy. And the core point in that book is that joy happens when we live in community and try to help others. That's joy. That's when joy happens. And that sounds a lot like church, by the way. Living in community and striving to help others. Well, joy isn't just about you. In fact, C.S. Lewis said that joy is not really a satisfied desire when you feel a rush, oh, I got what I wanted. Joy is actually something very different. It's an unsatisfied desire. It's when you're longing for something better, for others, for our world. When you have that hope, that's where joy resides. He went to a German concept in his writing called Sehnsucht. Sehnsucht in German means a holy longing, that you can envision something more true, a better world. And that Sehnsucht, that desire, is what joy is. And so joy will pull us into a better future. And joy will give us the energy to be steadfast and humble. Oh, my friends, here at First-Plymouth, let's keep weaving together steadfastness, humility, and joy, and create this rope so strong it can become a lifeline. I mean, there are people that need a lifeline, the sort of oppression they're facing and discrimination and the sense of hopelessness, of not thinking there's a purpose to life. But if we can keep casting out that lifeline, that's church. Amen. So, we're trying to end the sermons at 11:59 or 11:57 now, we're calling it. Whatever time you come anytime you want. We're going to end it interactively so that you could be texting a thought or something you wanted to add to it or a question, so can the digital audience. Were there people reacting?
Yes, there are.
So let's you and I interact.
Yeah, so one of the questions is, you talked about joy, and the question then becomes, are there ways we can sow joy or encourage joy, right? What can we do in our day-to-day of lives to help, seed that? Yeah,
so Jesus said, I have come that my joy might be in you and that your joy might be full. But what he knew, of course, what can cast out love and joy is fear. So I think the first thing, really, is to create enough calm. And I don't mean sitting down during perilous times. But enough quiet or calm, because you were made for joy. It will arise if you give it a chance. Does that make sense? Or?
No, yeah. I mean, I think sometimes it sounds so cloud nine and like impossible. I think what you're trying to get us to do is to bring it more to a certain contentment and imagination.
Sure, and joy isn't like you being happy while others suffer.
Correct. Yeah,
Again, joy is striving together for things to be better.
Yeah. So there were a few questions about humility. So I'll start with this one. What's the difference between humility and humiliation?
Yeah, big difference, huh? So humility comes from the Latin root for the earth or the ground. Yeah, humility is when you're grounded. Humiliation is the exact opposite of that. It's when you're being torn up by somebody else and feeling shame or feeling attacked. So even though those words etymologically are related, they could not be more opposite.
And in fact, I often think when we dignity violate, in my own life, when I come at you aggressively and I dignity violate, I'm actually not grounded at all. I'm the opposite of grounded.
That's right.
I'm disoriented.
Right.
And so I love that image of just ground.
And humiliation, again, is the full attack on someone's dignity.
Yeah. So another question on humility is around leadership. So he says on humility, it takes a certain amount. So leadership requires a certain hierarchy, right?
Yeah.
So then how do we help leaders
Yeah.
lead in a way that is deeply humble? And how do we encourage leaders to do that?
So as a spiritual leader, I'd like to say I'm the most humble man in the world.
Well, that's what I was
and
asking.
So actually, Jim Collins, the great business writer, said that if you look at key leaders, primarily he was looking at CEOs.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, the ones that are the best key leaders are evincing a type of deep humility.
Yeah.
That in fact, and that humility comes from being radically open to other people's ideas.
Oh, yeah, curious.
Yeah.
A certain curiosity.
And to value the other people in that way.
So I have one more.
Yeah,
This is interesting. So if you sent it and you took it back, sorry, you're not taking it back because it's a good one.
It just didn't make it into your spiel.
Well, it did. I mean,
Okay.
do you think about, when you talked about Jesus, do you think Jesus had those moments that we have, the question said, where he responded to something with choice words that never made it to the Gospels, right? That Jesus...
I think there's a lot that didn't make it to the Gospels. I mean, it was a 3-year ministry,
That's
and
right.
he was in tense situations. By the way, he was in a lot of meals with people. There would have been tons of laughter and smiling, but you get almost no laughter in the Gospels.
No, that's right.
Because they're not describing the day. I guarantee you there was much laughter. But so, too, the dude could get dialed up.
Yeah.
And we all can. However, his anger never resulted in any physical violence ever.
Or in dignity violation.
Or in dignity violation. He'd get mad. He'd be in front of, you hypocrites.
Yeah.
Mostly he was mad at religious leaders, by the way.
Yeah.
The Pharisees, the scribes, the Sadducees.
So I'll end
What's
with
your
this.
last thought?
The last thought is from someone who just texted like this second, which is that joy is experienced. So when we see it, we know it, and so we should just be open to that joy.
Be open to joy.
Amen.
Amen.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Bring your prayers, bring your requests, bring your celebrations. God is here. We often wonder, how are we to instill these virtues in our hearts and lives? And you're right, if you look at yourself in the mirror, you seem like it will be so hard. But by the power of the Spirit, by the power of love, we can together to instill these ways of being in the world. So come to the chapel today. Eat this bread, drink this cup. The Spirit of Jesus meets you there. Oh, and you have all you need for the journey of life and faith.
So right now, surrender your anxious cares to God. Hold fast to what is good. Return no one evil for evil. Find your joy in serving others. And end the benediction with me. Turn to someone next to you and say, go in peace. Go in peace. Go in peace.
There was something in a desert. There was some place wild and green, and a child in a village I passed through. There are places that I've traveled, and so many things I've seen, and it all fades away. But you, I was sliding down a mountain, I was burning in the sun, I was crying with amazement at the view. I was capturing a moment, but when all is said and done, well, it all fades away. But it all fades away, it all fades away, it all fades away, but you. I have sailed across the oceans, past the cities and the farms, on a never-ending quest for something new. And the only thing that mattered was forever in your arms, and it all fades away, but you. It all fades away, it all fades away, it all fades away, but you. That's eternal, that cannot be torn apart. There is one thing that remains forever true. Past the thinking, past the breathing, past the beating of our hearts, it will all fade.